Oh, well, Mr. Top Patty King has already laid the foundation to the tragedy that happened on Lake NYOS. Well, on the night of August 21st, 1986, the sleepy highlands of Momo County were shaken not by war, but by one of nature's most silent killers. Lake NYOS, a crater lake formed by volcanic activities, suddenly released a lethal cloud of carbon dioxide. The odorless invisible gas swept across valleys and villages, suffocating over 1,700 people and more than 3,000 cattle within minutes. Entire families were found lifeless in their homes, their bodies showing no wounds, only the cruel mark of asphyxiation. Now, scientists later explained that the lake had been slowly saturating with volcanic gases from beneath. When the natural cap holding the gases broke, the lake exploded, turning a calm water body into a weapon of mass death. Now, this event, known as a limnic eruption, remains one of the deadliest of its kind in human history, and still also a mystery to a lot of Amazonians. Now, while the natural disaster, as scientists will later call it, itself was unavoidable, it was what followed exposed the deeper tragedy of neglect. Now, survivors were left with trauma, homelessness, and haunting memories of seeing their kin and livestock perish instantly. Displaced families expected swift rehabilitation and long-term support. Instead, they were abandoned to fate. Relief came late, inadequate, and unsustainable. The promises of relocation, development, and dignified care for survivors quickly disappeared into the abyss of Yaoundé's empty commitment. Decades later, the scars remain visible. Villages around Lake NYOS still bear the marks of desertion, underdevelopment, and silence. Survivors who were resettled continue to live on the margins of society, struggling with poverty, poor infrastructure, and broken promises. Well, Lake NYOS did not only reveal the fury of nature, it unmasked the failure of governance. The colonial government in Yaoundé exploited the tragedy for headlines, but not for healing. Billions of francs CFAs earmarked for victims, resettlement vanished into corruption and bureaucracy. The international community sent aid, but much of it never reached the suffering people. Even worse, the people of Momo County and the larger southern Cameroons felt once again the cruel weight of marginalization. Their lives, their suffering, and their future seemed expendable in a union where they were never treated as equal citizens to begin with. Well, for Amazonians, Lake NYOS is more than a natural disaster. It is a metaphor for betrayal. Just as the lake erupted after years of hidden pressure, so too did the frustration of the people erupt after decades of neglect and oppression. Fungorji Dinka's legacy lies most vividly in the act of naming Amazonia and asserting that a nation's right to self-determination is rooted in its dignity and identity. While Lake NYOS stands only as proof that when tragedy strikes, Southern Cameroons are left to mourn alone. In the memory of the victims, the message is clear. The survival and dignity of Amazonia cannot be left in the careless hands of a system that sees them only as a statistics. Now, the forgotten families of Lake NYOS echo the cry of an entire nation that if they are to be safe, heard, and dignified, they must take ownership of their destiny. Now, we'll hand this back over to our news director, Mr. Patty King, to look into the mysteries and the analyses of these German scientists, if they actually were true or false. Over to you now.